and welcome to the Cancer Journey podcast. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Shariann.
So today we're going to be talking about other people's emotions. We often talk about the emotions that you're experiencing on a cancer journey, and the topic of other people's emotions always tends to come in, whether it's about a cancer journey or just as we're navigating life. So we're going to be talking more about that today. But before we do that, let's get grounded. I'm going first today. I'm going to do PESH first. Physically, I am a 4.1. Emotionally, I am a 4.35. Spirit is a 4. Hope is a 4.25. And my word is unbalanced.
Okay, so I'll ground. And my physical is 3.9. Emotionally, I'm 4.25. Spirit, 4.5. Hope, 4.6. And my word for this moment is chill.
All right. So, other people's emotions. What comes up first for you?
I knew you were going to ask that. Well, so this is the interesting thing because so what comes up is introverts and extroverts. And while that doesn't really matter, it plays into um, kind of your socialization. So if you're more introverted, then you're going to hang home and in closer and comfortable spaces for yourself, which tends to be not a lot of people. If you're extroverted, like me, I tend to be an extrovert introvert, but an extrovert, then I find myself around other people and I can be impacted by their energy. And then from extension of that, I can be impacted by their emotions. And so now let's take us back to a cancer journey. So being on a cancer journey, when people come and they want to visit, they want to support, they want to help, it's sometimes hard to tell the difference between somebody else's emotions and yours. It's like, it's not that it's confusing and we don't know, but it's a lot. And especially on a cancer journey, we're trying to find ourselves. We're trying to okay, where am I? This is a challenging situation. And then to have other people around you and their emotions, it's like, okay, I know mom is nervous. I know that, my husband is concerned. And it's like, so I'm trying to manage their emotions in addition to mine. And now this is going to lead me to somewhere which is not where I thought we would go, but it is now taking care of everybody else because I'm trying to manage their emotions so that I can still stay with myself. But that's hard because
Yeah.
it's like this ball of what I call it is noise. It's like this ball of noise, and I'm trying to manage my way through it.
Yeah. So like just going off what you're saying too, and even just like hone in for myself, when you're on a cancer journey, especially when a cancer journey starts, you become more acutely aware of your own emotions and your own feelings that are coming up because that is an extremely emotional place to get a diagnosis. I don't think there are many other situations that are as jarring and overwhelming and scary as getting a confirmed diagnosis from your doctor that just something's not right. So when you become that awareness switches from your day to day, every day, we're not even often thinking about our emotions in the day to day. We're just like washing the dishes, driving home, like you're just doing things and not really thinking about them consciously. So when your own emotions come to the forefront and you're navigating this new terrain, you're also just aware of other people's emotions because it's such a shift. So a complete agreement that there's that awareness to what's going on and how everyone is impacted because it does feel like there's this big impact that happens when a diagnosis comes in and how, you're communicating it and this and that. And I think that is exactly where I'm connecting your introvert extrovert piece because I think no matter if you're introvert or extrovert, you care about people's emotions. I don't think that changes based on however you define yourself in that way. But I think when we speak to introvert extrovert, we're speaking about the expression of how you are communicating and expressing your emotions regarding that. So, like, if I mean, we all care about other people's emotions. We all want to impact people positively. It's never really anyone's intent to be malicious. So when someone is an extrovert, they, I think, are more willing to bridge that gap and ask those questions and be a little more active in the relationship with another person in order to better understand, or for lack of a better term, like wanting to control what's happening with their emotions. But there's a little bit more like activity and back and forth and a willingness to do that because your natural expression is extroverted. But for an introvert, I find that introverts, because they're internalizing, not externalizing, they almost can implode. You know, maybe not all the way to that extent, that's a little extreme, but introverts almost like they take it in and they don't always bridge that gap between them and the other person. Sometimes there is a little bit more of an assumptive reaction to someone else's emotions and taking it on personally because they don't want to continue to have impact in that way. You know, they're almost trying to calculate how to be better in control of the situation so it doesn't become this inflamed thing. You know, there's almost like a bit of an avoidance there. And that's not to say that that's not okay to be responding in those ways or be, you know, introverted versus extroverted, but I do think the approach to other people's emotions tends to differ in that way.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And while you were talking, I was just kind of imagining myself in both of those situations where, first off, I think in general, it's kind of when you're in this circle of people and they're emoting, it's kind of hard to delineate between, is that yours that you're projecting on me, or is this me projecting my on you? You know, it's kind of hard to delineate who owns that emotion, because you, especially those of us who are empathic, we feel it and we get it. It's like, okay, I know that there's sadness in the room, I know that there's anger in the room, I know that there's hope in the room, but whose is it? Is it mine? Is it not? What I do like about the introversion is to kind of separate, not for a long period of time or anything like that, but to like almost excuse yourself from a swirly moment, just to get clear on what am I feeling and what's not mine, because I think that's really key in others' emotions and a cancer journey, is understanding or getting clear on, okay, this is mine. And I can totally own my fear, my sadness, my angst, my hope. And then that's yours. So it's not confusing. I'm not trying to manage something that's not mine. Where when I what I said before, which is I'm trying to take care of everybody, I'm just taking care of myself, especially on a cancer journey, because we're using really valuable energy to heal. And
Yeah.
so the more that we can be in touch with what's mine, what's yours, and not be overly responsible for you. And when I say you, I'm just anybody out there. What's coming to mind is even your doctor. You know, you want to be the good patient. You want to be considered a good patient, not a troublemaker or, oh my goodness, that's a difficult patient, and feel that people kind of avoid you because of whatever they interpret as difficult or
Mhm.
hard. And so we're that whole thing of people pleasing too comes into play when emotions are high, and it's like, ooh, what do I do so that control what you just said, can I can calm down the energy, calm down the emotions, and then we take it upon us as the cancer patient or the cancer survivor to do that, while our job is really to heal.
Yeah. Okay. Um, yeah, you said a lot. I think that double clicking on the empathy. So we're big strengths people. So especially when we speak of empathy in this way, we're speaking of the strength empathy and how it shows up. And so Shariann has empathy. I do not have empathy in my top 10. Obviously, I have it somewhere in my entire report, but I don't have it in my top 10. And people who have the strength of empathy high, they find it really hard to differentiate between their own emotions and other people's. So you can be an empathic person. This is completely separate than being an empathic person, because you can be an empath and not have empathy as a strength very high. So those who do have empathy really high in their strengths do viscerally feel other people's emotions. Myself, I don't often confuse my emotions for other people because I don't have empathy high. And I don't have to do a lot of that, like, okay, is this mine or is that someone else's? I have command, which means that there's a lot of clarity of emotion when it is there. And so confusion around emotions and like where it's coming from, I think is different than who it's coming from there. Just for clarity amongst the empathy, I'm an empathic person, but I don't always struggle with that because I think I'm a very empathic person, but I'm not really wrestling with, is this my emotion or is it your emotion? That is one thing I wanted to touch on. Another thing I wanted to touch on is just how acute your emotions become during a cancer journey is what like you're saying. And we do want to support everyone who's supporting us, right? So there is that like people pleasing, that sense of control. And some people during their cancer journeys are like, actually, no one else matters anymore but me. Like, I'm sorry, I like can't even think of everyone else. And so there's also that back and forth of like feeling isolated and wanting to keep everyone around you, but not wanting to like impact them and wanting to hold them and like still with loving in a loving way, but really right now you need that love. Other people's emotions, I think that sometimes we just day to day consider other people's emotions like a little too much. Which is the people pleasing, right? I myself definitely am like, oh, I'm not going to do this thing because someone's going to be hurt by it or impacted or misunderstand it. And so it kind of, I think when we talk about other people's emotions, it often is about, God, this is such a hard line because half of me is like, other people's emotions are not our responsibility, really. Um, and then the other side is we are responsible to treat people the way they want to be treated. So I find it really hard to tap into which side I want to talk about because it feels like such a fine line, right? Like we know at our core, people absolutely matter. The connections that we build with people matter, and we want to honor that by not considering their emotions. I don't even know where I'm going with that. I'm having trouble kind of honing in on that main idea of like what do we do about other people's emotions?
Right, right, right. And so, as someone who has emotional clarity, especially in chaos, because that's what command gives you, what would you do specifically?
Well, I think that the first point of that would be like emotions would first have to be chaotic for me to be able to, because that's hard because if emotions are chaotic for someone else, I want to show up in a way that almost helps regulate, not fix, not tell someone that they're not allowed to feel that way or anything like that, but to be like, okay, like let's figure out what's here. Why is there a disconnect? What do you need in order to not feel so like hot and chaotic with the emotion? And I think that's really where the clarity and the chaos shines. But otherwise, like just knowing what emotions can come up and be the ability to like communicate, being like, and maybe it's over communicating that I personally would be like, I want to do this. Will it impact you in this way that I think it might? Because I think to have someone in consideration is not to assume what emotions are going to happen, but to even have the dialogue of like, is this going to hurt you if I move forward with it? I don't think that really applies to a cancer journey as much though, because if someone is on a cancer journey, like say I'm experiencing a cancer journey, where from where I'm sitting, my emotions and my experience are so like they're gonna matter more. And so I would then over communicate still and say, this is where I'm at. And this is what I need. What do you need? And if I can fulfill it, great. But if not, this is what I need to feel safe and happy and calm.
And I think that's excellent because you have clarity on what you're feeling. It's when, for me, when it's confusing, yours or mine, because I'm always in take care mode, I believe, but also that too many thoughts are coming in. So when I'm confused, but you have the clarity, so you know that you can have the conversation. You can keep talking about it. And B, this is where I am and this is what I'm feeling from you. That clarity. I think what's where I get tripped up with other people's feelings is when they're projecting it on me or they're throwing it at me and it's hot.
Mm-hmm.
And during a cancer journey, everything is kind of hot because it feels immediate and we're just reacting. We're not responding. We're just reacting. And so this person may have this, you've got to do this and you've got to do this right now. And then all of a sudden I'm starting to rev up and it's like, okay, time is of the essence. And all of a sudden I'm getting stressed. So then I'm taking on right their anxiety. And then I immediately respond to that emotion versus being able to go pause. What am I feeling? And is this mine or am I taking on that other person's because it's coming across so strongly? And I don't have that radar to go, "Ner, ner, ner, something's happening. Is this yours or mine?" I'm in the moment and we're both reacting. And that's the thing about emotions is they just happen. It's part of what makes us human, but when we're in reaction mode and we're not able to take a pause and respond and just get back in touch with ourselves. That's where contention, arguments, craziness ensues, the chaos that I'm talking about. And then we need and Alicia to go, hold on, everybody just pause and see. So I don't think that I'm really good at refereeing on my own until maybe further down the conversation where you might come in and go, pause. But that's the key. It's the pause. It's the slight separation. I know separation doesn't feel good, but connectedness starts feeling like enmeshment in that situation where it's hot, it's heavy, and it's intense. And it's like, ooh, I understand why, long ago in school, if anybody got too excited or too enmeshed in their emotions, they'd say, okay, take a break and count to 10. For me, something nearly impossible to do because I'm so in the moment, but I understand the exercise of that to
Yeah.
like come back to yourself. Now, if they had said that, let's get you back connected to yourself, I think that would have made more sense. But it's just like, okay, go stand over there and count to 10. Made no sense to me. So
Yeah.
that was a lot too. I don't know. What do you make of that?
Yeah. I mean, what I'm really grasping and latching onto is the pause. Honestly, early when we were talking about introvert extrovert, I was thinking too, like, based on our own assumptions and our own definitions of what extrovert introvert are, introverts are in a place where pausing might be a little bit more easy for them and where they do actively practice that a little bit more. In this definition also of extrovert, which is like you said at the beginning, you're an extrovert. That's exactly where you are. I think that was a great reflection that you are not good at pausing when you're hot, which is not a slight by any means. It really is just an observation as someone who knows you very, very well. And I'm not saying that I know how to pause when it's like when emotions are high, when even tension is really high. Like, as individuals, I think a lot of times, again, this is the stress responses, right? Like, you go into a fight and you just double down on that. There's flight, there's flee, there's fawn, there's freeze. So yeah, so that's what was coming to mind as we were saying that too. The ability to pause when emotions are high and you're seeing nothing but red is really, like, so valuable in those moments. And it really is, in those moments, it's hard to think about anyone else's emotions, right? Like, you're being fueled by someone else who's like pumping your emotion up higher too. You're probably both seeing red, or you're just seeing red and they're like fine, which sometimes is like crazy to me when you're like really frustrated and someone else is like, I don't know why you're so frustrated, and you're like, what do you mean? Of course I'm frustrated. And which, honestly, regardless of what the other person is experiencing in that moment, it's about you. Like we have to come back to you, and we have to come back to how are you going to find that pause? Because that's when you can not only assess what emotions are yours or what are theirs, but assess what impact you're having on this relationship, on this connection, on yourself. Because again, like you said, you need to, not to say that you can't stand up for yourself. Feel free to stand up for yourself when it feels right, but reserving that energy for your own healing is important. And instead of using that energy at someone, you could also find other ways to express this energy. Because I'm not saying shut it down. I'm not saying you're on fire and you want to scream, count to 10 and go stand in the corner, right? Because I can understand why that's like, no, what do you mean? But it's like, okay, we need to find a better way. So instead of doing that, like, let's do something physical. Let's like get a punching bag or like scream into a pillow maybe or in your car. Like we do this exercise a lot as part of our curriculum, like where to put this energy, because we're not saying to silence yourself. We're not saying to shut it down. And we're also not saying that other people's emotions are important than yours. Yours matter, but it's finding for yourself how you are managing other people's emotions for yourself, not for them. And I think that is where I'm landing, because now, after all of this minutia that we've been through today, like I will say, like at the beginning, I did not know where I was going to land with other people's emotions, but it is managing other people's emotions for yourself. How do you
Hmm.
manage other people's emotions, including your own, which sometimes tends to be the hardest one, and letting other people's emotions still matter, but your experience needs to matter the most to you.
Right there. I'm just going to pause you because I want to underline that. Your emotions matter first for you before you take on anybody else's. And I can say that because it's hard for me. So I want you to give it back to you now because it felt like a takeaway. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that is like my takeaway. I would say that it's considering everyone else's emotions, acknowledging them is great because then other people really feel heard because no one knows what's going up in there. But at the end of the day, it's your own emotions and how you want to choose to care and manage other people's, because they're going to have emotions. Like we're humans, we thrive on connection at varying levels, obviously, but no one is living this life alone, especially when you're on a cancer journey. You simply cannot do everything alone, nor should you be fighting with yourself to do it all by yourself. Your emotions, your care, your friends and family, like all of these different connections you have to people, they matter and they get to matter to you. And the way you choose to navigate these relationships is also going to heal or hurt you. So that's my takeaway. Physically, I am a 4.2, emotionally a 4.4, spirit is a 4.2, and hope is a 4.25, and my word is a little bit clearer.
So my takeaway is around emotional intelligence. And I was talking to a dear friend of mine 2 weeks ago and just talking about my dad. And one of the things that I love about my dad so much is when he's mad, you know he's mad. When he's happy, you know he's happy. When he's sad, you know he's sad. I mean, it's very clear. And she just said, wow, that's really great emotional intelligence. And that's where it starts. It is that simpleness of being aware of how you're feeling and being able to own it so that you're not taking on somebody else's emotions. And I think that was really the big aha and topic for me today is I don't need to take on anybody else's. I don't have to mesh myself with somebody else to make everything okay. I just need to be clean here and what I'm feeling, which is just a different way of saying what you said. And to do that, I need to keep checking in with myself. And the more that I do that, it's the clarity that I know what I'm feeling so that I can smile when I'm happy, frown when I'm, sad. It's like there's not ambiguity because I've intermeshed with, I'm making up all kinds of words. I've meshed with somebody else. It's me and them and not be responsible for how they're feeling. like you said, and I know sometimes it comes across harsh, but it is really true, is I'm not responsible for somebody else's feelings. They get to have their own. So however you're feeling, I give you permission to feel that, but I don't give you permission to throw it at me. And that's a clear boundary that I know. And that's part of emotional intelligence too. So that's my takeaway. Physically, I'm a 4, emotionally 4.3. Oh, my spirit is 4.6, and my hope is 4.6. And my word is calm, chill, calm, same vein.
Wow, what an interesting conversation because I really didn't know where it was going to go. We just know that other people's emotions matter, as do yours. Well, thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next week with a new episode.
And I wish you a lovely rest of your day. And remember, you are so much more powerful than you realize.